It's timely, it's insightful, it's motivating, it's empowering. It's Time with Fred, your inspirational broadcast with host Fred Gaddy.
Thanks for tuning into another edition of the Time with Fred podcast. This is a podcast that challenges paradigms and mindsets that hold us back. I have with me a very special guest who joins us via Zoom from Washington State, Seattle, in the person of Denis Wester. Denise has a very powerful story about overcoming life's challenges and how her own story led her to where she is today. And she shares very openly and freely some of these powerful lessons to our audience and our listeners. So Denise, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Fred. I am so looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. Denise, you have a theme and you call that busting through. And I've listened to your story and it's such a powerful story about you share a story about overcoming some of these challenges that we all are bound to face or we all go through, right? But in your case, you didn't allow that experience to define you. You're able to navigate those challenges and you're able to turn those around into you share your story with the world. Can you take us back a little bit, Denise, and give us an inside scoop about what busting through is? What are we busting through here?
Yes, well, I was raised in a very restricted religion, not knowing who I was or had able to just feeling like I was never doing it right, never doing enough, and always feeling judged. I later left the religion as an adult when I got married at 19. And then years later, 4 children, found myself divorced, bankrupt, and a welfare mother with 4 children and moved 12 times in 1 year, not knowing, making so many bad decisions and so many wrong turns. And I finally just settled in, got myself a job, and then had this job for 18 years. And I found myself in a severe car accident, took 2 years of rehabilitation and busting through the pain body and getting beyond that. And then just, life, multiple job pivots. I realized I've been laid off from 4 different jobs. And just being able to pivot out of all these different things, I came up with some methods and strategies that have worked for me. And I wrote them in my book, Busting Through. And it's a journaling workbook to help you discover your personal power and get courageous to find what you want and take action on your life.
Now, you just shared, gosh, how many years of experience there in
Yes.
just about a minute or so. But I want us to unpack this a little bit, Denise, because
Yes.
you have a very powerful story, especially going through, some of these challenges, whether it's welfare or whatever. Life happens, right? And I know I've heard of people who, may just get stuck, right? Whether it's that mindset or whether it's a situation, and they just can't seem to get out of that. And let's go back to what was it that, and I know this may be, an issue of being vulnerable here, but how were you able to get out of that welfare experience? Well, first of all, what led you into that and how did you navigate?
Yeah. Being on welfare at the time, I was so ashamed of being on welfare. I was so, I just had this mindset that I did not want to be on welfare. This is was really hard for me to go and apply and do it. But I was in a state where I needed to support my children, provide for them. But when I ended up, after moving 12 times, I ended up back here in my hometown in a really bad, rental, all that I could afford. It was just horrible. But, I was grateful for it because it was a roof over my head. And I finally was like, I'm done moving around. This is where we're going to be. We're going to get settled into a routine. So a couple of weeks after, into a routine, settled in, I call the welfare office and I'm like, okay, I am ready to get a job. What kind of program do you have to get us back on track? Does you have something that you could help me get an education, and help me with childcare, et cetera? And she's like, well, do you have somebody to watch the kids? And it's like, no. Do you have an education? No. And she's like, well, you are exactly what welfare is for, where you should be. We don't have any programs to help you other than, the welfare assistance program, click. And I just still remember that feeling of being so dismissed, so pigeonholed, just so put in a box, and this is where you're going to be, and this is where you're going to stay, and this is where you should be happy with, and I was just got off the phone and was like, no, this is not what I want to be. I was raised from my mother was a welfare mother, and she always, the reason she could never do anything is because, I'm on a fixed income. And I did not want that to be my message, that this is where I'm stopping in life, to my kids. I didn't want that to be the message to them. And so I just kept taking action on any kind of inspiration. I got a newspaper subscription from my aunt when I was there, and I was reading the newspaper one day, and there was a program at the local college it was called a Women in Transition program. And it was every Saturday, and they took care of the daycare. So I went there, and there's other women there, and we just were a great supportive community. They were other women like me who were welfare. There were women who were in hiding because they had domestic abuse, women who were older and never worked a day in their life, and all suddenly found themselves divorced, and just all these situations. And we gathered together as a community and just really support each other. And the college gave us tools and support and great, information so we could grow. And it was so empowering. And that's kind of what I want to do for my readers in the book, is empower you and to be able to discover yourself. And being on welfare, it was so empowering to see a picture of getting out of it, a way of getting out of it. And the school, that college, helped me get my kids, my younger two, into the Head Start program, which is a pre-K program. And through that, I found out there was a click out program for welfare too. So I got a job, and I slowly was able to click out of being on welfare and getting assistance with a job. But it was such a mindset change at the very, very beginning, from shame to empowerment. And that is a great journey. And it's a lesson that I really wanted everybody to be able to share that and grow and learn that you're not stuck. If you find yourself in a financial situation, there are tools and programs out there. And that doesn't mean that's it. That does not mean that is that's where everything stops for you. It means, okay, this is where I am right now. Let's make a plan for getting out of it, and sometimes you have to take a moment. And like I said, I had to take some time to get my kids regrouped. We had to get ourselves in a schedule. And, I didn't have a stick of furniture. I did nothing, but it was a process. And I kind of just took that time to be grateful for having my kids all together, and we're creating our new family unit. And then we made a plan. I made a plan and a strategy, and took action on opportunities to get me out of that.
I like the fact, Denise, that you mentioned that you had to act on it, because you had every reason. I mean, when you called that office and they give you all the valid reasons, I might add, why you should stay in that program. You didn't have an education, you didn't have a job, you had to stay where you are. But you're not satisfied with that. And I think that really fits into the theme of this podcast, because what we're doing here week after week, guest after guest, is to challenge those paradigms and the mindsets that hold us back, right? So whether they're expert opinion or systems or whatever it is that tends to keep us down, you wanted more out of that. Why didn't you take that as face value when that caller on the other side, or whoever you're talking to, told you, this is all there is to it, right? To say this is what your fate should be. Why didn't you take that at face value? Why did you still challenge that mindset, so to speak, and want more?
Yeah, and because like I said, I was raised by a welfare mother, and she stayed on welfare, and she used it as a place of staying stuck. And I just saw that, as, where she used it as an excuse to never grow, never take any action on anything. And I remember my brother one time wanted to go to school to be an architect, and she's like, I'm a welfare. How can we do that? She didn't say, hey, that's great. You want to be an architect. Let's figure out a way to do it. She's like, no, she shut the whole idea down, and it totally deflated him. I remember seeing that look on his face. I remember seeing him lose all of his drive and passion. And I did not want that kind of action to ever come from me towards my children. Yeah, it's so important to look back on, reflect on those things, and I see where my mother, where she came from with that. That was her life and her journey, and I wanted to make sure that that was not mine, and for my children, I wanted that to stop, and I wanted them to follow their curiosity and take action on their vision and their goals too.
Absolutely, Denise, you hit the nail right on the head there, and your book so aptly called "Busting Through," right? And I know it takes a lot of courage sometimes to be able to go against some of the well-intentioned, right, opinion of you, whether it's friends or family or people we love and trust. And I have this friend who went through a similar situation. Left. He was the only person in his family to go to college. He had to leave his state and go to Washington, D.C. to go to find a job. And he explained how that process of removing himself from family and friends and the society that he had so become accustomed to was a very painful process. He even shared that he was ostracized, and they didn't like the fact that he was breaking away from that. And he said it took a lot of courage. And now, he's very happy. He has a great job, and he's doing so well. And he speaks to how that process of moving away from that, or breaking away from that status quo, can be a very courageous act, right? And you find a lot of people who get stuck because they don't have that courage to be able to break free, or break away from that, just for the same reasons. How easy was it for you in your case, where your mom had gone through this experience, and you wanted something very different? Did you face any opposition at all from either society, friends, family, when you're with your drive or desire to break away from that into finding a meaningful life, making a meaningful life for you and your kids?
Well, at that time, I felt very, very alone. And that's where journaling really became a guiding principle for my life, to really get in touch with and get clarity on what I wanted in life. And that's why my book is a journaling workbook, because it was such a strong tool for me to get clarity. And I highly recommend it. And that is what I used at that time to get clarity on what I wanted. Because as I said, I was raised in a very restrictive religion. And so I had no tools. I had no clarity on what I wanted. I was never able to dream. So finally, for me, at that time, when I found myself alone, a single mother, I had an opportunity to find out, what did Denise want? And what did I really believe? And what am I finally able to dream? I'm finally able to take action. And it was hard. That is really hard. And it's not to say, oh, got courageous and I took action. And it just happened. It's not like that. I mean, what happened is with the journaling, I had to start listening to that voice inside that has been squashed down for my entire life. And my entire life as a daughter, and my entire life at that point, I think I was 25, 26, something like that. And married to somebody that was the same way. It's like, and towards me. And so I finally had an opportunity to listen to what Denise wanted. And that can be really hard. And that's why journaling helped me get clarity of that. I just having conversations with myself and unpacking that. And the courage came from the little steps that I made. Like I said, I said yes to going to that women's empowerment course, and just being around all those people and feeding off of that energy. And it's like, and seeing the steps that they made, and seeing that some of those ladies had it so much harder than I have. Some of them were in those abusive relationships, and you're just heart bled for them. And you see how they took action to get out of those situations. And it just empowered you. It's like, hey, I can take little steps too. And so that is how you get courage, because you got to recognize your wins. And I recognized my wins at the time. It's like, I was doing this. I was a single mother of 4 children. I was doing this every single day. And I had a goal of wanting a better life for my kids. And that really drove me, and just started making plans and taking little steps towards them.
There is often this misconception, Denise, that which of course have been popularized by this positive thinking, which there's nothing wrong. I love positive thinking. I have a lot of books, and I've read. I have a lot of authors who espouse those views. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we've society has kind of painted this picture that the moment you step out and you put one foot in front of the other, you start that everything becomes so easy. But what we fail to address are the challenges, right, that that are part of this process. It's not just easy to say this is what you want and you go out there and it's waiting for you. You have to go through some painful experiences, the sweat, the pain, their tears, and there's so many experiences from guests who've shared how their experiences were fraught with some of these challenges. But those challenges aren't meant to stop us. And you talk about journaling and listening to that inner voice. And they're part of the process is to drown out some of those other voices, right? The naysayers and all these other voices that tell us why we can't, and listen to that inner voice, which is why I've always said that you got to be careful who you let into the inner circle, right? And that inner circle could be, some of those voices could be our own negative voices, right? That saboteur voices that tell us or that gives us all the reasons why we can't do something. But it's important, as you rightly said. Were there instances where you had self-doubt? Were there some of those saboteur voices in your own mind that told you that you couldn't do it? And how do you drown out those voices? How did you tune those out?
Yeah, it's like you self-doubt, because you're just still learning to, at that time, I was still just I was just an adult mother that was still just, like I said, finding herself. And so, I was still been making mistakes. And I don't know how I did it. Really, I think back and I'm like, how did I do this? I just was so determined to just make a better life for my kids and for myself. I just knew I could do it. But it was just a day by day. And what the thing is though, with mistakes, I guess I always look at it, and I write about this in my book, aren't mistakes in that they're learning experiences. You got to learn. It's like, okay, my motto is live it, learn it. Okay, I did this wrong. This did not go as I planned. What do I learn from it? And just make some takeaways from it. Don't beat yourself up. And I mean, that's why when my ex-husband and we lost in our business, is like he went down the road of just, the shame of going through a bankruptcy and losing his business. And he just never turned himself around from that. Here was a guy we, had made really good money. We had a successful business, but he couldn't see himself outside of that he has a big failure with this bankruptcy. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as like, okay, I learned what happened, what went wrong in the business, and I learned from it. And I was never afraid of the shame of the bankruptcy. I just thought it was a lesson. But he took it as shame and never recovered from that. Never recovered from that. So to me, that was always a lesson. You learn your lessons and move forward with them as learning experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part of it, I would say, and this is not a gender thing, but it's, we males just don't tend to manage those types of emotional situations well. I share the story. I was listening to this guy who had lost his job and was being interviewed, and he had made a statement that losing his job felt like the end of the world, right? There was nothing else to live for, and he felt like that was it. And I think it's just the pride in knowing that, as a breadwinner, provider, that significant part of your life is taken away, and we just can't seem to recover. And that's why we tend to mask the way we feel. We're not as vulnerable because society judges us based on some of those things. And so I'd imagine that, and a lot of men are coming out now, embracing their vulnerability and saying it's okay not to be okay, right? It's okay to be vulnerable, because it's life happens. We all at one point in time going to have to face some of these challenging difficulties, and we shouldn't allow those to define us. And like you rightly said, you're able to you got a different perspective out of that, and that kind of helped you. Now, so moving away from the welfare situation, you ended up finding a great job in real estate. Can you share how that happened, and the feeling that came with finally getting what you wanted, breaking away from that mindset, and finding finally that liberty, if you will, or that freedom?
I was in a fantastic job. It actually was in the food service business, and I was in sales and products and services sales. And it just so happy there. I was on a drive, just driving, and then I was in that car accident, a severe car accident. And I just remember sitting in that car after the accident came, and I was just thinking I was so grateful I was alive, because it was a very high impact accident, and I couldn't feel my arms or feet. My legs were just quivering, and people were holding me as I was shaking, and I just kept thinking, it's all over with. Everything I dreamed of with this job, it's done. It just came crashing down on me, and it was a painful journey of recovery, because the pain, it just weakens you mentally along with physically. And then just not knowing that it was going to get better. I had 2 years of physical therapy, and I was not getting better. I was going through, pain clinics and medication and TENS units and shots, and talking to surgeons about and stuff like that. And I wasn't getting any better. The doctors would all talk to each other. It's like, you're not getting any better. And finally, I went to this new doctor. He's like, well, you have two choices. You can keep managing the pain the way you have been with the medication and stuff, which is not, it wasn't managing it. It was just pretty much tuning my brain out. Or you can get stronger. And I was like, stronger? What? Nobody's talked about that before. What? Tell me more about this. Well, your muscles were ripped to shreds, and now you just got to build them back up and to hold that body together and help with the pain. I immediately left that doctor, went to the gym, hired a personal trainer, and I was so fortunate that I hired somebody that was knowledgeable in trauma, and she saved my life. She went out to my car, readjusted my seat, readjusted my headrest. It's like when we walked to the gym, she's like, you cannot use this machine. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. We're just going to have you just walk on the treadmill for a little while, and that was the most painful thing in the whole wide world, just to walk on the treadmill, put one foot in front of the other. My whole body was just burning. But I did it every single day after work. I did it every single day. And I started feeling better. And that just to seeing some results finally and getting stronger, taking control of my recovery was so empowering. And finally seeing that, okay, I can get better. This is not it. This is not going to be living with this pain for the rest of my life. Even though the doctors kept saying there's a new norm, and I just was talking to somebody about this. It's like, well, are you pain-free now? And I realized, no, I'm not. But this is and the doctors kept telling me my bar is raised for the new normal, but I'm stronger. I mean, I do yoga, I teach spin, I bicycle, I feel the stronger than I ever have in my life, but it's just taking control of it. And that was a really, really hard journey. And I call it the pain body, because the mind, getting the mind wrapped around, the physical and getting beyond it, it's hard. It's really, 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 really hard. So anybody that's gone through any kind of, medical situation, it's a really tough journey. But you got to keep an eye on the prize pretty much. And that's why journaling helped me so much. What I just did every single day, I just had a separate journal for my pain body. And I would just write in it what I was actually feeling, because I didn't want to talk about it with my friends and family. I did not want my pain body to be, this is Denise, she's recovered from a motor vehicle accident. I didn't want to be that, might be my story. So I just wrote about it and just like purged it. And I was like, knew I would never read that journal ever again. I just wrote and moved forward, I got rid of it. And I just kind of put it all behind me. And that was, like I said, it just was a powerful tool for me to get clarity and get beyond the pain.
Yeah. And life gave you another reason, Denise, to give up, right? Life dealt you another blow with the accident. Not a pleasant experience, I'd imagine, but you refused to give up. You sought a coach and you did everything you could, and here you are telling your story. Another powerful testament to the fact that life again is going to happen to us, not one time, not twice. But we just got to keep moving. We just got to have that resolve and that determination to keep doing everything we can to overcome whatever obstacle and challenges we experience. Now, Denise, what are some of the lessons that you share in your book, Busting Through? Any lessons there that you want to, you talk to us about?
Oh, there's so many little golden nuggets in my book. And I share, the power of being present, the being grateful. Like I talked about, in my story that I just mentioned, that I was just grateful for that moldy little house that I was in. Even though it was a moldy little house, I didn't, I was grateful that I had a roof over my head. And, with my accident, I was grateful that finally I found a person that helped me see myself out of that. So to me, gratitude is a huge tool. And affirmations to me are a very, very important tool in that to change that mindset, to change that story, change those negative words going on into your head.
Let's talk about gratitude there.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
For a little bit, because you made it, such a powerful, being thankful for, that house, which was not ideal. And we all go through life again. I may sound like a broken record here again, but we love to hate, right? We don't want this. We have so many reasons to loathe the situation in which we're in. We hate it, but why is it important for us to be thankful for where we are? I mean, to be thankful for the little things, Denise, because I've had psychologists on this podcast who've talked about the power of being grateful, right? For even the little things. And life has become some sort of automatic. We go to bed and we assume we're going to wake up, we assume our body organs are going to be functioning. And those are some of the things for me that I have to pause and be thankful for, and name the very little things, right? Counting your blessings. Why is it such an important thing to pause and to be grateful?
Yes. To me, gratitude, and all the other methods I put in my book, it's all boils down to is changing your vibration. You got to shifting that vibration. Hate's not going to bring about love. It's like, and, being, sad is not going to bring around happiness. So you just got to shift your vibration. Yes, life does happen. There is things that happen in your life. I've, been laid off from 4 different jobs, the accident, the divorce, the religion and welfare. It's life. It's how you manage that. And it's like the methods and things I have in my book, and like gratitude and all that. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen anymore. It means that you can take control. You change your vibration on how you deal with it and how you can overcome it. And it doesn't mean it's going to take you down. And it means that you shift out of it. In that, when I had my car accident, I was grateful I had nobody in my back seat. I was so grateful that I wasn't on a trip with my kids in the back seat. I was just going to work. You got to, start looking at things that way instead of with hate or with why me. I have a saying I put in my book. If you pop a tire, you're not going to get rid of your whole car. You're going to replace that tire and keep going, So it's just, you got to change and shift your perspective, because it's just going to change that vibration to bring you joy, bring you more of what you want from life, bring you peace, and get you going in the direction you want to go.
I love that. Maybe 1 or 2 more lessons there from your book, Denise.
Well, yeah, that's why I talked a little bit. I touched on affirmations. Affirmations kind of help you. A lot of people will just buy a deck of cards and they have affirmations on it and pull one. It's like, okay, boom, I'll read it. And that's it. I want people to supercharge your affirmations, because what affirmations do is reprogram those negative things that we've been planted in there from our childhood. You're ugly, you're not good enough, you're stupid, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not a good reader, you're not a good writer. I mean, I said all those things before I wrote my book, and that's before I said, we all have those things going on in our head from our childhood that we have to shift out of. And the way to do that is with affirmations, but just not getting a card and reading it, you are beautiful or you are smart, and then putting it down. No, you got to supercharge it by feeling it and believing it. And I think too, saying it loud so you're hearing it. I want everybody to put their senses in their affirmations to supercharge them, because so that it can really get it into your body and believe it, and believe that you are smart, believe you are creative, believe you can do what you want to do. And to do that, you need to really reprogram all that stuff that has been programmed in your mind from a childhood that tells you you can't.
Yeah, because it's the power of the subconscious, right? Whatever you feed that subconscious mind, it's going to believe it. Its subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fictional. Whatever you feed that is what your mind's going to believe and go to work on. This is so good. Denise, there's someone watching or there's someone listening to us right now who, may be in the darkest moment. They may be on welfare. They may be stuck. They may be, they may have been dealt a significant blow in life. And the temptation for them would be to stay stuck right now. For them, they just don't have any courage at all to bust through. They don't have anyone to talk to, and their negative voices are weighing, that positive. They're just stuck. I want you to speak to that person, Denise, who's listening to you right now, who may be dealing with one or many life challenges and really just doesn't know how to get off.
Yeah, I get it. I was there, and there's a lot of people out there, and that's why I'm here to support that, in that you are not alone. You don't need to stay stuck. And the way to start doing that is listening to that voice inside of yourself. As I touched on earlier, you've got to listen to what you want. You got to really, and bring that voice forward in by getting out a piece of paper, getting out a book, and start writing it down. Start being honest with yourself. Nobody's going to read this. It's all about what you want. And start this dumping it, everything out in your brain, just writing. And you'll get such clarity. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I never even realized I wanted to do this. I never even realized I had this story in me. And so start just letting it go. And if you have a story that keeps coming up, that's like a experience with a person that you just feel like just brings out hate or resentment, take a separate piece of paper and write that story out. Write that whole story out. Write out about the feelings. Write out the whole story, everything that happened from start to finish. Write it all out. Take it, roll it up, and say out loud, I am done with this story. You have no control over me anymore. I am not going to allow you to take control of my life anymore. And I want you to take that piece of paper. I want you to take that story, and if you can safely burn it. I call this the wall exercise. And because you're breaking down the walls with and I want you to then say, I am powerful. I can do this. I am strong. I am creating whatever affirmation that you need that's going to counteract that story that you just wrote out. And I want you to burn, or if you have a shredder or a fireplace or a barbecue grill, someplace safely that you can just destroy that story. Get rid of it, put it behind you. It's done. It's so powerful, a way to just do this exercise to get beyond and move forward. And then on another piece of paper, back to your journal, I want you to data dump everything that you want to do with your life, every vision. And just don't bring in like, oh, I can't because of money. I can't because of this. There's no, I can't. You could have anything you wanted. You can be anywhere and do anything. Just start writing it. Start dreaming. Start being curious. I want everybody to start being curious and saying yes to yourself. And just do it as an exercise to be fun, to see what comes out. And then to go through and look at it. It's like, yes, this one, I do want to write a book. Hey, I'm going to start doing this. I met somebody on social media. I just listened to a podcast that wrote a book. I'm going to reach out to them and ask them how they did that. So just start taking little action steps towards your curiosity.
I love that. And if there's one thing that you just said, Denise, that just stuck with me, that will stick with me, is saying yes to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Saying yes, because sometimes you just got to learn to encourage yourself, right? There's going to be all the reasons why, you're going to hear why you're not worth it, why you can't, but give yourself a chance. Say yes to yourself. Sometimes you just got to be your own cheerleader, pat yourself on the back. And there's nothing prideful about this. It's really just saying, look, this is my life and I've got to take responsibility for it.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Nobody's going to do it for you. It's it's your life. Live it. Wester, and Instagram Denise R. Wester. And I do have a website, and the links are there on my social media. It's denisewester.com. And I also, if you buy my book, I want you to email me at pr@denisewester.com, because I have a very private, closed off Facebook group just for my readers, so I can continue to support, like I want to do, that was done for me. Like I said, when I went to that women's transition program, I want to continue to support my readers with more journaling support. And I want to build that community to keep supporting my readers. So you can join that Facebook group.
Yes. All you're doing to help people.
Yes. That's my goal.
Yes, to your listeners, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll come your way with another episode. Thanks again and stay well.
Thank you.